Hello, welcome back to the post-match pint on the Villa View in association with Purity Ale. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, still laying low with COVID, so I couldn't go to the game today, but we are going to do a post-match pint because obviously I watched it on television, so apologies if I cough or have anything wrong with me through this podcast. If I die through this podcast, it's obviously because I've got COVID. Joined by a very, very special guest, someone very, very special to the channel. Oh, I was going to do a joke and he's ruined it. I was going to pretend Ian Taylor was coming on and then it's Tom Julian and he's thrown it up on the screen just as I was cutting to my earpiece gag. But it is Tom Julian is here to relive our Booth podcast days. And Tom, pretty fitting to lose to Brentford away, isn't it? That does invoke pure memories of being in the booth midweek.
Yeah, yeah, it was... It made my stomach drop just the way that it always has done when I knew that I'd have a long journey to the booth to complain about how bad Villa were, and then a long journey home to complain to my wife about how bad Villa were, and it just felt a bit like that again, didn't it? I kind of, the game finished and I felt like, you know what, we were the better team, we probably deserved something out of that. And then you look at the injuries, both teams had injuries, but Brentford were pretty depleted there, and we should have won that game. I don't think. I just feel like Brentford kind of got out of jail. They scored a couple of. Oh, the first goal was lovely, and you know the second one they robbed us really. Yeah, just very frustrating. Very typical me coming on Villa View. Very frustrating.
Yeah. Before we get into the shit that is the Villa, some people might wonder where you've been. For these 18 months now, you've not been on the channel. Two years, You've not been on the channel. Do you want to just update people with what you've been doing? I mean, first off, actually, you're going to hate this because there's zero notes unless you've wrote any yourself. There's no notes here. Oh, you always got some.
You can't see them.
You didn't share them. Didn't share them with the other people on the podcast, so that's pretty poor, unlike you. But yeah, how are you? And how's life been over in Germany? Because to be fair, you picked a pretty rubbish time to move to a different country.
Yeah. So I for those that are new to the channel or didn't watch a couple of years ago, I used to be a regular face and got a job with the Bundesliga. I got the job in January 2020 to start in March 2020, and literally I moved the weekend that COVID hit. So we had our leaving due, and everybody was kind of started to worry about COVID, and I was gathering a large group of people together, that weekend all the games started getting postponed in Germany. I moved over, nobody was there in my office on the first day, and really not much has changed in the last couple of years. It's just been an absolute roller coaster, to be honest. But yeah, terrible time to move. Terrible time to join a league, but at the same time, really interesting. So I look after the international communications for the Bundesliga, which has been super busy, but very interesting to be with a league at this time, an unprecedented time. And yeah, while there's been a lot of frustrations, we've done a lot of new things in terms of how we communicate. I won't get into the kind of boring details of it, but it has been a good chance to, explore the industry, see how we can change things, innovate things, and Bundesliga is super keen on being at the forefront of innovation. So that's been fun. So yeah, on the one hand, disaster. On the other hand, my colleagues are nice. The where we live outside of Frankfurt is very nice. Hoping that you'll come over at some point that we can go and see a couple of Villa games with a couple of Lions clubs, because there's a couple of active Lions clubs.
I'd quite like to see a Bundesliga game rather than a Villa game on the TV, to be honest, Tom.
We can do both. We can make both of those things happen. But yeah, it's been a weird one for sure. But my German's getting better at the very least.
Yeah, I can notice actually the way when you're talking, you've got a bit of that thing where someone who's moved over to a foreign country talks when you're talking English now. You've got.
You're not comparing me to Steve McLaren.
I'm not quite that bad, but there's definitely something there. I'm sure people in the comments will agree with me and pick up that is definitely the case. And you were about to go to Dortmund Bayern as well, weren't you? And then the games went behind closed doors again. I mean, you can't write this kind of luck.
honestly, so I got to go to the Super Cup, which was Dortmund Bayern in Dortmund in end of August, and that was good. But it's Super Cup, so it's not quite the same as a Bundesliga match. There's a palpable difference between the fans and what they expect from that game. So yeah, I was all geared up to go to my first proper Klassiker at the start of December, and basically, COVID has hit Germany really hard. Our vaccination rate in across the country is not good. A lot of East German, in particular, a lot of its cities in East Germany struggling with the vaccination process. Not for lack of vaccinations, just lack of willingness. And yeah, basically, it was deemed appropriate that all sporting events would go down to a maximum of 15,000. A lot of places had empty stadiums again. But yeah, Dortmund, Bayern only had 15,000, and that meant the communications things that we were going to do there were put on hold, which was very frustrating for me. I got to go to a couple of games this year. Been to Dortmund, been to Frankfurt, been to Leverkusen. So few games, but if you'd have told me that I'd been here 2 years and I'd have seen 3 Bundesliga stadiums.
It's not funny. I don't know why I'm laughing. It just feels very Tom Julian, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Took the pandemic with you. I mean, not that you're the cause of it or anything like that. But yeah, I do feel for you, because it is horrible. You're obviously going over there full of excitement, this really, really interesting, exciting job. You basically haven't got to do a lot of the good things that you should be doing in that role. But I'm sure it will come when COVID leaves us in 2029, Tom. So, look forward to that.
On the one hand, you're absolutely right. Like, we would often, my predecessor and me in previous jobs would go to an event and take journalists with us and show them the city, show them the game, show them everything that's going on. Haven't been able to do any of that. But on the other side, I got to interview way more players than I would have done in my previous job.
Who's the best you've interviewed? The best player?
We had Robert Lewandowski quite early on.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I say I interview it, I kind of set up basically a call like this and get journalists in from around the world and kind of moderate it, make it look and sound hopefully good. I got to interview Jude Bellingham in person at Super Cup, so that was good, and Serge Gnabry as well. But yeah, but being able to do a lot of this stuff online, we've had way more access to players than we ever have before, which is good. It's not the same as being there in person, but it has changed things, I think, for the better, that when COVID finally leaves us in 2029 or wherever, that hopefully we can do a kind of hybrid way where we're in person, but we're also doing it online as well. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
I mean, I should say in transfer window times, that COVID day, that's not anything ITK. I don't know when COVID's going to go. I'm not 100% sure, but 2029. If it's gone by then, at the moment, I think we'll all be quite happy, because it does feel like it's never, ever going to go. And since you've gone, Tom, I mean, people did notice this straight away. As soon as you left the Villa View, Villa got to a flyer that season. I mean, Liverpool 7-2. I think we won our first 3 or 4 games. Villa generally have been quite good since you left. And I've got to say as well, my career's gone from strength to strength since you've gone. I don't know.
I was going to say, have you been busy? Because you don't seem to pop up on Twitter at all, plugging anything that you're doing.
You must have been really holding me back. Because I was going nowhere working with you, and since you've gone to the Bundesliga in a different country, things have been going a lot better. But we should probably talk about the Villa game. Maybe we'll come back to the travels of Tom Julian near the end. But Purity probably want to get some Villa out of the money that they pay us. So let's talk about today a little bit then. You get a bad feeling going to Brentford, don't you? You just, even when we were 1-0 up, I messaged you saying, this doesn't feel very, very podcast like. This doesn't feel like the kind of thing that happens before we go and do a podcast about Villa. And to just lose in a bit, what felt like a nothing game to me. Brentford haven't had to do a fat lot to win that game. I think Gerrard said afterwards they probably have 3 shots all game. To lose that game 2-1 is really, really disappointing. And I found Villa quite weak and feeble in rolling over and losing that game, which really disappointing, especially under Gerrard and the way we've been under Gerrard.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I think I've already used this word a lot, but frustrating was the word of the day, where we started off okay. Brentford, I thought, looked really poor. They looked out of sorts, and again, I think they've had issues with COVID, they've had issues with injuries, and they just looked like they didn't really know each other. and Ings obviously scores that fantastic goal kind of 15 or so minutes in, and you're kind of thinking, okay, Villa could get a strong away win here, something that I think we need. 4 losses in the last 6, and it would be nice to get another win under the belt and kind of push on again in the new year. But you're right, it started off very flat. I thought Villa grew into the game much more than Brentford did, and we got the goal, got the early goal, and we still looked on top, but totally deflating, because you mentioned it there, we kind of eased off and let Brentford come into this game, and there's no way that game should be 1-1 at half time. And you can imagine Gerrard going into the changing room at half time and just flying off the handle, because he's like, what was happening for us to just kind of drift through the second of the first half? I just don't know what happened. It just felt very flat.
Yeah, I don't often get really, really annoyed, but I did get really, really annoyed today. I don't know whether it's because I'm ill as well, but I feel extra frustrated by this one, because it's a game that's there for the taking. They were a poor outfit today, Brentford. I think their own fans would say, oh, yeah, we weren't great today. So to lose that game and from them not doing anything, and I felt there was a borderline bit of arrogance from us when we went 1-0 up. It was kind of like, oh, we don't need to do much to win this game now. And in the second half, I didn't feel like we ever really got going, and it's a poor second goal as well. Martinez makes a great save, and just the reactions for it to come back to the same player and for him to knock it in for his first Premier League goal. I don't know why I'm doing that, because it was his first Premier League goal. But, that's the kind of thing that again always happens to Villa. Someone will get their first Premier League goal against us, and it's all about plucky Brentford. Well done, Brentford, the underdogs. But I just think it's seriously weak from Villa, and that's something that's been a problem for the last decade near enough. That soft underbelly where teams don't have to lay a heavy glove on you to beat you, and it felt like that today. And as I said earlier, it hasn't been like that under Gerrard, so he'll be frustrated, but I think he'll also look at a few players today and think, he's not up to it, I need some different players in January, because to be fair, the bench was pretty sparse today, and now there's 2 more that were involved today going off to the Cup of Nations. I know Mings will be back for the next game, but then McGinn's going to be suspended for the next Premier League game. Now we suddenly look really, really short. Twanzabe's gone, and we look like we need maybe 2, 3, 4 players in January, which is never a great time to buy. But I just thought overall, it's that weakness, isn't it? It's that mental side of things that's the disappointment today.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about the kind of soft underbelly, because I felt like under Dean Smith, certainly prior to the last 6, 8, 10 games, I didn't think we had that. I thought we were stronger with Smith, and I thought we were more resolute. I thought we concentrated better. It didn't start off very well this season, and that soft underbelly was certainly there to be attacked. And Gerrard kind of seemed to sharpen things up. But if you've got those players, Gerrard has inherited those players, the same players that were playing under Smith. The concentration factor is not necessarily because of the manager. I thought his subs could have been better today.
A few people have said that.
Yeah, you talked about the bench being weak, and it was, but again, the players that you picked, maybe it's the players over the manager, but the players that came on didn't shine. Trezeguet came under a lot of criticism, and I thought deservedly so, especially for that awful.
What was he thinking?
attempt.
What was he thinking with that? Why would you do that? Oh, you wouldn't do that down a park with no cameras. So why would you do it when there's hundreds of cameras watching you? There's blatantly nothing has happened. And the most annoying thing is, he'd actually done really well to get into the position he did, and put himself in a good place to create something, but instead he goes down in a situation where he's never, ever in a million years going to get a penalty. Even if the ref gives that's 100% getting overturned, because nothing happened.
Yeah, and Trezeguet is such a weird one, because he's had some really sparkling moments in a Villa shirt. They're few and far between, I would say. He's never kind of put it together consistently to be the main guy. But yeah, to just do something like that, it felt weak, and it felt like I don't know, it kind of symbolized the collapse for me, that it was all falling apart. But yeah, to go back to the original point, we miss Mings, and he's a captain, he's a leader. Sometimes his brain goes awry, and he falls out of position. But I think we would have been stronger with him.
Yeah, 100%.
Seen in the comments here, Nakamba, who's been a fantastic revelation under Gerrard. He's an important player for us, but when he's not there, you've got to be able to reshuffle and keep strong, and we didn't, and we were slow to react, certainly obviously for that second goal, but it could have come at another time. And Gerrard's got a lot of work to do. He, like I say, he still inherited the squad that was there before. He's not going to be happy with all of those guys. There's certainly going to need to be changes. I think he said, what did he say? It's not going to be wholesale, but there are going to be opportunities to strengthen. So it sounds to me like there is money there to spend.
Yep.
We've obviously seen a couple of guys leave. Axel, who wasn't ours anyway, but also Keenan. We'll talk about him, I guess, more later. But good to see him go and get some games, hopefully. But yeah, we definitely need to strengthen across the midfield to cover for AFCON. Left back has been one that's been talked about a lot. Wingers, we're still not quite there. Buendia had a couple of nice moments today and linked up nicely with Mings. But I still think there's a lot more to see from Buendia. I'm not writing him off as a 30 million flop just yet. I hope that he can kind of grow into his place in a Villa shirt, because I think he's got an awful lot to give.
But the cynics would say what Buendia has done today, that through ball against Brentford. That's purity, by the way. The cynics would say, when he's done that against teams like Brentford in the Championship, that's the kind of team where he has done it. It's against the other teams where you need to see a little bit more from him, because it was a lovely through ball, don't get me wrong, lovely turn and through ball. I don't think the passage of play from the Brentford midfielder was brilliant in letting him turn and play the pass, but it's a nice ball. The way of the pass was perfect, but he hasn't done that in the other games. So the cynics would say against teams like Brentford, well, yeah, he's already proven he can do that. He did that last year, all year for Norwich in the Championship. Yeah,
but he also did it for Norwich in the Premier League. He has shown himself.
I like him because he plays forward. Yeah, I really like that.
I think he's shown himself to be a class player in the Premier League. It's very difficult for players sometimes to just swap in from Norwich to Villa, or Villa to Man City, or however it might be, and for you to just be that guy and be the main man. It's just more complicated than that. And to write someone off after half a season or whatever it is, to me just seems foolish. He might need 3/4 of a season, and hopefully we see more from him at the end of next season. I think fans sometimes want instant gratification here, where it's like Buendia comes in, he's an instant replacement for Grealish, and he scores 10-12 goals and sets up another 10. It just doesn't work like that sometimes. It's going to take him a little time to bed in. He got signed by Smith, now he's playing under Gerrard. He'll learn a lot. I still think from Gerrard. I still think that he'll come good, and he'll be a good player for Villa.
I will say,
but
I will say that goal was a little snapshot into what we did try and do and what we did buy. Jack Grealish is a phenomenal footballer. Obviously, I'm not comparing him with Buendia to him. Jack Grealish is a one-off, but that's not the kind of goal Villa scored with Grealish playmaking. That through ball to the striker, and then the great finish from Danny Ings. That's kind of a snapshot of what Villa were trying to do in replacing Grealish with Buendia with the through ball to Danny Ings, because the way the pass was perfect, and it's a really, really smart finish from Danny Ings on his left foot as well. So a little insight into actually what the kind of plan was. Yeah,
and you talked at the start about the cynics saying that it was just against Brentford or whatever. I mean, Brentford have been a good outfit this year. I don't think that they're a terrible side by a long chalk. And again, they're not at full strength, but hopefully Buendia will take confidence from that performance and be able to take it into the games against Manchester United and the next games coming up, because we need playmakers like him. Villa have played with a creative, attacking, world-class talent for the best part of 8 years, 6-8 years, something like that, and we have grown reliant on a player like that, whether it's the guy that's kind of weaving in and out and then playing it out to the wings and then the ball comes across, or it's going to be this new style of being a bit more direct, but finding that pass, because Ings knows where to run. He's a very savvy striker. He knows where the goal is, and you give him those kind of opportunities and he will stick them away. What I think we need is more from our wider guys to draw draw players out, give Buendia a little bit more space. I still think there's more to come. I think hopefully we'll sign another kind of creative attacking player. And I go back to it. I think Buendia will come good, whether it's, next week, let's see, maybe it's March, maybe it's August. I think he needs the time, but I hope that when we start kind of 22-23 season, that he will know Gerrard, he'll know the system, and he'll be our main guy.
I think El Ghazi might be off in January, He hasn't had a start under Gerrard. He came on in the first few games, actually, under Gerrard's stewardship and did well. Got a couple of assists, or was involved in a couple of goals. He obviously was involved in the Brighton goal. He was involved in the goal away at Palace as well. He got an assist for that one, but then he's not really been seen since. He seems to have fallen majorly out of favour. And Trezeguet, who hasn't played since April, isn't it? March or April last year, and he's coming on ahead of him today. Maybe Gerrard just wanted to have a look at Trezeguet because he's one he hasn't seen, but it's not looking good for El Ghazi. And, his goal output was pivotal last season.
I'd love to, one of the reasons that I love football and I love working in football, and, you and I share the idea of loving working for a club, is seeing what life will be like, on a day-to-day basis in training, because, we watch the games on a Saturday and we, see snapshots of what the Villa social want us to see on Twitter, or we see kind of behind the scenes interviews or whatever, but it's all what you want to see. It's not how players react when they walk into the changing room on a Monday morning, or how the manager is feeling about different players, or what he's seeing every day. I just love to know what Gerrard's seeing, really, what he's thought, and where he's going to go in January. Obviously, the transfer window is going to show us that a little bit. But Anwar El Ghazi is a perfect example of that, of a player who was pretty effective under Dean Smith, whether it was starting or coming off the bench. He has been very important for Villa. It doesn't look good, like you say, that he hasn't had an opportunity.
Didn't even come on to that.
And he'll be annoyed by that. He's a top athlete that wants to play for his country, wants to play for his club, wants to be the best that he can be, and to not even get an opportunity in a game like that, he'll be fuming, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's one that I hear well, this was probably under the last regime, to be honest, but he's one that does bang him in training, and his levels are really sharp in training, and it doesn't always translate to a match day. But yeah, I think Villa can be, from what I hear, they're going to be really, really busy in January, which is unusual for a team to be so active in January. It sounds like Villa have got plans to be. I mean, it doesn't always come to fruition, so I'm saying that. And quite easily we could sign no one, because it's really hard to shift players and move players in January and get people in. But from the sounds of it, we want to be quite busy. And from what Gerrard said as well, he's got a couple that he's got his eye on that he wants to get in. And I don't think he would have took the job without being given certain assurances. He said, I'm the man, I'm in charge of the transfer. So he'll want to get a couple of in. So it'll be interesting to see who he does get in. Just back to the game, you touched on him a little bit, Tyrone Mings. He gets slated in certain quarters. Because to be fair, when he makes a mistake, Tyro, it's big, isn't it? When he makes a mistake, it's not something it's a tiny mistake. It's usually quite a big one. But I'll tell you what, we are a far better side with Tyrone Mings in it. If you play Hawes next to Mings, he'll have had a better game today. Concert next to Mings, exactly the same. Because when you put them together, they're not as effective without Mings, in my opinion. I just think next to Mings, yes, brilliant. Concert's an unbelievable defender. He's had a great 12 to 18 months. But when you're not next to Tyrone Mings, he suffers. Mings, for me, along with Martinez, are probably our most important player.
I thought Concert played pretty well today. There was a few opportunities where he just kind of tidied up and did the job. I say played pretty well. He did the things that he needed to do. Whereas Hawes, I felt, was, a bit quiet or a bit
rusty as well, isn't it? Hasn't played for a while.
Yeah. That's the job. He knows that's his job. He knew he was coming in today, and it's easier said than done to say you've got to be ready, you've got to be match fit, you've got to be on the ball to take over from the captain. But he did know that was his assignment coming in today. I didn't feel like he took his chance, and Axel Tuanzebe maybe watching the game thinking I could have done a job there.
Well, he obviously wants to go. I'm presuming he wants to go to Napoli,
and I don't blame him at all. I'll come back to the original point about Mings, but to talk about Tuanzebe, I thought the move in the summer was a bit weird. Very happy to have him back, but he was always going to be the kind of guy behind Konsa and Mings, and I didn't really see the benefit for the player or Manchester United in him coming back to Villa, really. And for him to go to Napoli, I think that's a great opportunity for him to, like, both professionally and personally. I'm not sure what their centre-back situation is, and whether he's going to walk straight into there. But I think the contract is based on, him playing.
Yeah, he hasn't played enough games at Villa, so they've been able to cut it short, Manchester United, I believe.
Yeah, which, and again, I'm surprised that the contract ever got through, because I'm sure Dean Smith would have thought that Konsa and Mings were his first choice. Solskjaer should have known that as well, I think, on the other side. But anyway, presumably he'll get the opportunities at Napoli, and great opportunity for him to go and play in Serie A, experience a different lifestyle and all that kind of stuff, and then come back to Manchester United and hopefully he gets his chance there. But back to Mings, he's massive, and I think he wasn't made captain just out of default because he was the next man up. He was made captain because he was a leader, because he was important in the dressing room, because he was important to Dean Smith. That's obviously carried across to Steven Gerrard, and he does make a mistake, and there is an error in him, and it matters because I think that he's so important, and we don't talk about the things that he doesn't make a mistake on, and he tidies so much up, and he's there, and he's making
blocks a lot as well. I feel like he gets in front of that second one today, possibly down that side.
Right, yeah. Whether it would have happened today or not, he's definitely shown it in the past that he's there to make the last-ditch tackle or the last-ditch block, like you say. He's important to Villa, and you're right. He gets a lot of criticism. Sometimes it's justified. He makes a mistake, and he holds his hands up.
He can be casual. I'm not for 1 minute denying that, but I think when you look, if you were to watch a game for 90 minutes, he does so much, so much for that Villa back line, so much for that Villa team. It's huge when he doesn't play, and I genuinely don't think we lose that. I'm not having to go at Consa. I'm not having to go at Hawes. I think if Mings is there today, we don't lose.
There was very few good things about COVID when it was empty stadiums, but one of the only good things was being able to hear players talk and organise. And you have someone like Mings who is literally bellowing for the whole game, organising, putting people in the right place, telling people where to go in no uncertain terms. A bit like a young Tom Julian, I would say. Organising things, making sure everything.
Maybe organising things, but not on the football pitch.
That was definitely my role. More talk than feet, I would say. But he's important, and we missed him today. And would we have drawn that game, won that game? Who knows? But I think we would have been a better team with him.
Watkins as well, COVID. I mean, we know Brentford have got tons of players missing, so it's all by the by, really. But, Watkins up against his old team today would have been a useful outlet. He would have run the channels, maybe create a bit of space for other people even more. So, and again, another miss against his old team. People are talking about going to Arsenal. Villa aren't going to sell Ollie Watkins to Arsenal in January. It just isn't going to happen. He's got COVID. That's why he didn't play today.
How do you feel about the the Watkins-Ings relationship? Where are Villa happy with that? Are we happy up top, or do we now need more again?
I like it. You've taken over asking the questions. I feel much more comfortable with you asking the questions in this. So maybe that's the problem with Watkins and Ings. I feel more comfortable with you asking the questions to me. Usually, I'm happy to ask the questions when it's me and you. I like you to ask the questions from the notes. I feel comfortable with that. It's just not. It's a bit of a conundrum. I said that after the Chelsea game. It's just not happened. It's not come together. I mean, you can see the relief in Ings' face when he scored today, or the frustration when he scored today. Now he's got 4 goals. I think Watkins has got 5 goals probably at this stage of the season. You'd probably not be happy with that if you were offered it at the start of the season as a partnership. But they've both missed games. There is things to take into consideration, but teams generally just don't play too up front. I actually think the way we play under Gerrard, Watkins should always be the number 9 when fit, the one leading the line on his own. I think Ings would operate better because we play such narrow 10s now behind the striker. We've kind of played Watkins there and Ings as the main man when they have played together. I'd quite like to see it the other way around. See how that goes. I think Ings has got more about him in that position. His goal today, a great snapshot of what he can do. Lovely run, timed well, takes a finish on his weaker foot and absolutely buries it. Because if he gets chances, he'll score. Ings. There's probably Harry Kane. I can't think of a more lethal striker in the league than Danny Ings. I've probably missed someone blatant. I know I don't class Salah as a striker. Do you know what I mean? He's a proper striker, a proper number 9. You're getting a ball falling in and around a penalty area. Ings is probably up there, I would say, across the whole league. Maybe not in a Villa shirt so far, but over the years for Southampton, Ings banged the goals in. I think his record in 2020, even though he's not scored loads for Villa, is still up there as one of the best in the league because of the goals he scored for Southampton.
Yeah, but you're also advocating to swap that so that you have Watkins in that place, and that's definitely not Purity.
No beer for me. I have actually had my Purity delivery now that got stolen.
That was unbelievable. I saw that on Twitter.
What's going on? I got just a single can in a box.
Why would you leave the can?
Just to rub it in. I honestly think, right, you're getting away from the game there. The parcel said the Villa View. I honestly think he didn't say my name, he said the Villa View and my address. I honestly think Birmingham City found in the depot or something. Just packed them away. Yeah, just tipped them down the toilet, but left one just to have a little dig. That's honestly what I think. Why would one can get delivered in a makeshift box?
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense.
The one can's a conundrum.
Even the label on the box, it's like a handwritten. It wasn't. That's not how the stuff's come from Purity before. Someone's done me there.
Not the good thing, but the interesting thing is they have actually done you because you're annoyed by it as well. So they really have.
I was really looking forward to some Purity on Christmas Day. Yeah, I've since been replenished, so I have had a Purity delivery in the last few days. You'll know I didn't tweet when they had the good news, just the bad news. That's what you do, isn't it? That's what you do.
Yeah. Well, you usually tell me all the good news privately just to rub that in, but I didn't get the Purity message either.
No, you can't get can't get Purity in Germany, can you?
I'm on the Hofbräu.
Leave that comment up, please, because I actually completely agree with that comment.
What does it say?
Game change when Ramsey came off. I was surprised Ramsey came off.
Yeah.
I'd maybe like to see Ramsey pushed forward to the 10 in that instance if you wanted Santana.
So yeah, we didn't get to this. We didn't get to the answer here. So when Watkins and Ings are both fit together, you play Watkins as a 9 and Ings as a 10.
Not every time, but I think if you're not going to play them as a 2 up top, I think Watkins looks frustrated when he plays in that weird number 10 stroke winger position. I don't think he's happy there. His body language completely changes. I noticed it against Chelsea at Villa Park. Just his body language wasn't great when he was playing out wide. He doesn't like it.
I agree with you with Watkins, but I also don't think Ings is going to be happy there. He wants to play on the last man. He wants to make that run.
Well, we've got a big problem then.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I don't think you're going to be able to keep both of those guys happy because you're going to end up farming one of them out to a position that they don't want to play. Ultimately, I think Watkins gets the nod over Ings for a multitude of reasons, not necessarily for the pure finishing, but I think Watkins has a longer history or a longer term future rather at Villa. But it goes back to what I said before, is that we need the players around him, Buendia included, who can then service Watkins in the way that he wants to play. And, that was effective last year. He had a good relationship with Grealish. We need to find that again.
I wonder what we'd do if everyone was fit. If we had a cup final tomorrow, what our team would be.
Yeah.
I think Ings would probably be on the bench.
So I would be inclined to disagree, but only because of the relationship between Ings and Gerrard, maybe. They must know each other from days gone by. Do they play together?
I don't think they played at Liverpool, but Gerrard would have been there as a coach.
Is that right?
When Ings was there. Unless I've got that wrong. Maybe they did have a year. I feel like Gerrard's last season at Liverpool was the FA Cup semi-final and the final was going to be on his birthday where we knocked them out. That Grealish game, I feel like that was Gerrard's last season because it must have been because it was going to be his last FA Cup final. And I remember us losing to Burnley just before the cup final and Danny Ings scored. So they can't have played together. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. That's how I remember it. I've been wrong before. I'll no doubt be wrong again. But that is how I remember it. It's not squad numbers, so you can't guarantee that I'm right.
If anyone's going to correct you, it won't be me.
No. We're still waiting for James Chester to get that England call up. We're all outraged that it hasn't happened yet.
But this is just a hunch, but it feels like Ings and Gerrard have a relationship. Maybe I'm plucked out of nowhere. But
They've got, Gerrard said it himself, so they have got a relationship. He has said that. He did say that.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe they get, maybe what Ings is the one. Hopefully we've got a cup final at some point to talk about. That might be nice, but we've got Manchester United
It might be
in the cup.
nice, nice to get a decent third round draw for once.
Yeah.
That might help.
What's your thoughts on Target? Because again, there's a lot of speculation that he won't be sold, but he may not be the first choice left back come February 1st.
I'm fine with that. I actually think Target's been really good under Gerrard. I think he's been really, really strong. Maybe he didn't have his greatest game today, but he wasn't alone in that. You know, you're going to have bad games. But we're too weak defensively numbers-wise now. Twanzabe's gone. We've got the back four that we would play if everyone was fit. Then we've got Hawes and we've got Ashley Young covering two full-back positions and he's injured. So we ain't got enough defenders. It's simple math. 6 defenders to go through the rest of the season. That's not enough. We've got 16-year-old Joshua Feeney on the bench today. I mean, that's... I mean, with all the will in the world, you ideally probably don't want a 16-year-old having to come in at centre-half at any point in the near future. That's probably not going to be something that we want to do. 16's too... That is young.
I'm trying to think how old Rio Ferdinand was.
Not 16, he might have been 7. There's freaks though, isn't there? Unless he's one of these freaks like Bellingham. But to play centre-back in the Premier League at 16, I don't think anyone's ever done that.
And so that's what I'm trying to think, because Ferdinand was young. Reece Oxford, I think, is the youngest. This is a random fact.
He's still playing in Germany, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. That's all I know. But he was one of the youngest ever defenders for West Ham, I think. So he must have, eclipsed Rio Ferdinand. But Rio Ferdinand must be one of those guys, Jonathan Woodgate, maybe. But yeah, anyway, you need to be a phenom to be that guy that can go in at 16, 17.
But that shows how short we are, doesn't it? 6 defenders to cover 4 positions for the whole season. That just isn't enough. So we're gonna have to buy a left back or a right back.
Yeah, but it looks like a left back is coming in. But maybe more. Maybe we need another centre back as well.
Well, we definitely do. Yeah.
It kind of comes back to that, age-old question of, do we buy players? And Gerrard's kind of indicated that we will buy players to fill the bench and fill the squad. But then are you blocking some of the talent that's kind of coming through? Obviously, you've got Carney, you've got Jacob Ramsey come through and playing on a regular basis now, but you don't want too many players that are going to then kind of be talent stoppers essentially and stop these guys getting the minutes.
People are going to go, aren't they, as well, you would think. I think we need 3 players in January, which for January, for me, I would always stay away from doing numbers like that. I know 3 doesn't sound a lot on the face of it, but that is a lot of new players to come in mid-season. Because I think we'll go... Nakamba's obviously out for the season. He would have played a fair few games, so you're going to need a midfielder. You're going to need a centre-back. Maybe even 4. You're going to need a full-back. And then do you need someone to play in the number 10 position? Because Bailey can't stay fit to save his life either.
Bailey's super frustrating.
You should know some stuff about Bailey because, you're the Bundesliga guy. I mean, we're not talking about the game here at all now. It has just descended into a podcast, but that's absolutely fine because I don't think any of us want to talk about that game.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing really good to say about the game because just frustrating again.
Love that word. What's frustrating in German? Can you start saying it in German instead?
Oh dear. Ärgerlich?
Maybe? Egg what?
Ärgerlich?
Ärgerlich.
Somebody correct me in the comments.
I don't think you're going to get anyone correcting you in the comments.
That's like being annoyed or being, sour is another good one. Like, ich bin sauer, I'm annoyed. It's not quite frustrating, but yeah. Adam, our producer, is definitely looking up.
I can see he's doing something, isn't he? I know he's saying you wrong. I think he's saying you wrong, or he's not looking it up at all. He's just tried to speak to me. Absolutely nothing's come through on the mic. If you have tried to feed me, he's still talking now. I can't hear anything. That's fine.
But to go back to the game for one quick second, because then
no thanks, Tom.
This will be really it, and then Brentford fans can leave if they were tuning in for actual analysis. I think that was a massive opportunity to win there. No disrespect to Brentford, because I think they're doing a decent job, and they had a lot going on themselves in terms of injuries and COVID and stuff. But they were there for the taking today. We missed the opportunity. I thought their goalkeeper played pretty well, but they also lost a couple of players during the game. Jensen and another guy went off fairly early, and it just felt like we should be jumping on that And those are the moments where Gerrard should be saying, all right, go in for the kill. And it just never happened.
He'd be seething, Gerrard. I imagine he's absolutely furious.
Can you imagine what he's like at home after a game like that? He'll just be like pacing, and they'll be just completely inconsolable, I would say, until they can get back on the training pitch.
Because you won't understand how we lost that, really. I mean, I'm not sure I do. Because I just so annoying that I've done nothing to win that game. It's not being bitter or being salty. They didn't do anything to win that game, and they have won it 2-1.
So to move on from the actual game, to look at what Dean Smith might have done over the last kind of 8 games or so, do you think that the change was right, and that Gerrard has we've shown significant improvement under Gerrard, but isn't just a new manager bound?
Yeah, I think someone had a pop at me on Twitter earlier just before I came on. The usual, when Villa lose, let's have a go at Bardell. He's basically saying that I didn't want Dean Smith to get the sack, so obviously I was wrong. I think there's a difference in like supporting the manager when they're there. So I supported Dean Smith when he was the manager, and I support Steven Gerrard. Now he's the manager. I thought the sacking was harsh at the time. I was wrong, because I didn't see that someone would come in and get an awful lot more out of the players, to be honest, at that point. And I thought Smith had showed that he could turn us around a couple of times before. So I didn't expect Gerrard to be as good, but I've seen it. Take today out of the equation. Today was rubbish. But overall, the way we now play football is a lot better. The way we move the ball around, the way the midfield's a little bit more progressive. We look more solid than we were doing in the latter days of Smith. We just look at a better team, and like we've got more of a game plan and more of an identity. And I just like Gerrard. I like Gerrard as a man, and I do think, I didn't realise this afterwards, sometimes a change of voice is needed. 3 years is actually a long time in football now. I said it before, that 3 years is probably the equivalent of, in days gone by when we were kids growing up watching football, probably the equivalent of about 10 years now, because you just don't get the time nowadays. That's a long time to be the manager of a team, and sometimes you do just need a different voice. And I do think Steven Gerrard's re-energised Aston Villa a little bit, and I think after how down everyone was, and the club felt a bit down about losing Grealish, I think it needed someone like Gerrard maybe now. I've realised that in hindsight. But I think there's enough there that I've seen this is going to be a good appointment. And he won't take performances like today. Performances like today will be few and far between. That's why I said on Twitter, it's a little bit of a throwback, because Gerrard won't suffer fools, and he won't let things like that happen. Today was bad. It's the first game you look at today, isn't it, where you've said, oh, we've lost to Brentford. Not sure about that. Because the other games we've lost have been to the top 3, and you think, oh, we gave them a good game. Chelsea I wasn't blown away with. I thought Chelsea were poor and beat us, actually. But, it's Chelsea. A couple of penalties. Today's the first game you look at it and think, I expected us to go there and win today, and we didn't. So it'd be interesting to see how we react to that. Yeah,
I'm still a bit on the fence. Like I was a big proponent of Dean Smith. We both were through still doing the podcast together. And when he got sacked, I was disappointed for a number of reasons, as were a lot of Villa fans. I could see why they did it, and we were losing games hand over fist. But I still felt like he would get us to, mid to lower mid table.
I think we'll finish higher under Gerrard than we would have done under Smith. Yeah, I do think
I'm still waiting to see that, because I think you're right. I think the performances have bounced again. Certainly they had pre today, but there's still a lot to be proven, I think, from a young, exciting manager, sure, but we need to. I'd like to see the full body of work. Totally behind Gerrard, absolutely, always am behind managers, unless they're Alex McLeish, but generally fully behind managers. But I'm intrigued to see what he does in January, and then February to May, because you've already mentioned there that we might need 3-4 new players.
Great. I think it'll be 3 minimum,
But it's like we've just talked about, it's difficult to settle in, especially in January, and especially mid-season, everything going on, COVID, people, games being postponed, players out, then players in. It's a really tricky job to be a manager. That's a stupid thing to say, but it's a tricky job. And you look at these fixtures now. You've got Manchester United twice, Everton, who that That should be a winnable fixture.
I don't fear any of those games.
You should look at all of that. Certainly out with Manchester United, and maybe look at Manchester United and say maybe you can take something.
They're beatable. We've already beat them once.
Certainly the latter three there, Everton, Leeds, Newcastle, where you've got to be going, 7 points, 9 points.
Can you flash your fixtures back up, please, Adam? Because I just think this again taking me back to sitting in this booth with you. Does the last two feel quite peak? Because Leeds have been rubbish for weeks. And they'll suddenly start. They won today, didn't they? They'll suddenly start to get it together as we play them, and the transfer window's shut by the time we play Newcastle. So they might have a load of world beaters suddenly in their team. That Everton are in big trouble. Yeah, I'd think
could have a new manager by the time.
Yeah, that is true. Everton could have a new manager. Yeah, at the moment I'd relish Villa going to Goodison Park. Steven Gerrard if you got a few goals early like Brighton did today. The fans will turn at Everton. They're almost as bad as the Villa fans. For turning on the team, Everton fans will go. They will really, really go. They don't want Benitez anyway. Like you touched on McLeish, they didn't want Benitez there, and they're not doing well. So that's a game to go there and upset them early and win. I don't fear any of them games at all, really.
I think it's natural to look at Manchester United and think we're not going to win there, or even at home, because Manchester United often causes issues. But you're right. Certainly, I'm gonna ignore Manchester United because I have a fear of them constantly that goes back to childhood days. But the latter three there, you've got to look and think.
Oh, nice question. Bear that question in mind when you finished your speech.
I can't see it. Okay. It's too small. Would you rather win the cup or the league?
It's a cup or the league game. I'd rather win the league. Would you rather win the cup or the league game against Manchester United?
I think I'd rather win the cup,
Same. I want to win the FA Cup. I think Gerrard wants to win the FA Cup as well. I really feel I can see it in his eyes when he talks about it. He's not going to mess around in the cups. We're not going to be playing kids unless we get COVID again. He's not going to be playing the kids and he's going to go full throttle for the FA Cup, I think, Gerrard. I think he wants to win trophies. That's what he wants.
Did he score that wonder goal against West Ham in the FA Cup?
Yeah, Shaka Hislop at the Millennium Stadium.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it? Marlon Harewood played in that game.
I think Marlon scored in that game, actually. If I go through the Marlon archives in my head.
Was it 4-2? Was that the game that Alan Pardew did the dance?
No. No, that was years. The dance was like not that long ago. Jesse Lingard scored for Man U, didn't they? They won. It was Man U, that was. It was 2-1. Yeah, it's 2-1 to Man U, I think.
I thought. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. So Pardew did the dance and they still lost. Yeah.
I mean, they lost on penalties to Liverpool, the Gerrard Cup final.
Yeah, that was such a good cup final.
Yeah, that's probably the best cup final I've ever watched, actually.
But I can't remember what So I'd rather win the cup. Oh, I'd love to go on a cup run. We've had some lovely cup runs.
Never the FA Cup though.
No,
right. Except for the one we got battered in the final by Arsenal recently.
And I love a Wembley experience.
You love asking for a ticket as well.
Yeah, I absolutely will be. Yeah, one podcast appearance means that I'm guaranteed a ticket.
I was sorting you out Wembley tickets before we even did the Villa View. Actually, that FA Cup final. What a gift!
You brought me one for my birthday. That was a lovely time. Actually, you didn't buy it, but you got me.
I hope I didn't buy it because I've never had a present of similar ilk back. If I did, and that's why you buy to receive back.
There's a present on your.
There is actually, yeah.
Shelf there,
yeah, next to the referee spray.
A leaf.
You know what? I've spotted that referee spray now. I did this podcast with. Oh yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. I did the podcast for the PGMOL with former Premier League referee Chris Foy. I was talking about that vanishing spray, and I was like, I don't know where he is. I should find that. I don't know where he is. He literally was right behind me the whole time I was talking about it. Poor, perfect. Absolute poor. Yeah, how did you feel when I got a gig with the PGMOL working with former Premier League referee Chris Foy, Tom? Because I've been very kind about referees over the years when we were doing podcasts. You don't like refereeing, do you?
I messaged you to just say, there's been a couple of times in history where Dan's messaged me to say, that's my gig, I should be doing that. And
not about things you're doing, by the way.
Oh, there have been. Remember the Sky Bet playoff big posters that were on?
Yeah, that was mine.
That was. You definitely.
That was mine. That's why.
Do it.
Yeah, that was mine.
I cashed in on that.
And then you got it the year after, didn't you? You got it the year after.
Furious.
Yeah, I wasn't happy with that, to be honest.
But this is the equivalent of that. If there's a refereeing gig to be had, then that really belongs in my wheelhouse.
I'm the man for it.
You seem to do a great job. Chris Foy seems to be very taken with you
He
now.
does.
So
He does. He tweeted me a few times. Chris Foy wishing me well from my getting over COVID. Nice
I
man.
watched.
Nice man.
I watched the first part of that PG MOL
Didn't
thing,
know the rest of
and
it.
now, well, I'm a busy guy, but I thought you did a good job. You're obviously an excellent host. You've learned a lot from me over the years, and I thought you come on leaps and
I mean, if
bounds.
you had time to watch the Villa game today, Tom, you had time to watch the second half of the PGMOL talk with Chris Foy.
I'll put it on straight after this.
Should we get some questions? Just get some questions up on the screen. Like podcast. If anyone wants to ask any questions, yeah. But Adam says there's not a lot being said in the chat at the moment, which is not good for Tom's confidence. There's a lot of Tom Julian love though. But we want to ask Tom any questions because we don't hear from him very often. You're not very prolific on Twitter nowadays either, Tom. Are you not allowed to be?
No. It's just I just don't. I try and this is going to sound really like high and mighty. I don't mean it to be, but when I'm, I work quite long hours, and I often have to take my work home, and especially now that we're all working from home anyway, it's hard not to take your work home. But I work often spills onto weekends or spills into other things, and I try not to be on Twitter, or I try not to be on my phone when I'm like playing with my kids or anything like that.
I mean, when we said how's life been since you left, you didn't even mention that you've had a daughter since you left the Villavia.
I had a daughter in January.
You should probably mention that.
Almost a year. She'll be one next Saturday.
She got a Villa kit, or does she support a German team?
She's got a Villa kit, yeah. So I bought Alfie a home kit when he was born in 2018, and so I bought, because we were here in Frankfurt, I bought Emily the away kit, which I thought was a symbolic gesture. But yeah, so I mean, she's not particularly interested in football. Alfie's super interested in football now, which is really nice.
What's he going to do if you stay in Germany? Do you think he'll get a German team? Because then if you ever come back to the UK, you'll not be in love with that team. And then, I don't want to do all this, but you'll be in love with that team. And then you might move back, and then you won't be able to go and watch his team play. Believe
it or not, I have thought about that quite a lot. He's not really interested in teams right now. But, but if we stay here another 5 years and he's, 6, 7, 8, we'll have probably gone to Frankfurt a fair bit. I hope that Frankfurt would be his team. But he knows who Villa are. He knows John McGinn. He's going to be a Villa fan, I would say, if we move back to the UK.
That's true. I don't know why I completely just ruled out the fact that he would actually just be a Villa fan like his dad, wouldn't I? I don't know why I completely ruled that out in my head.
I hope so. I think there's
there was the twang, the way you said hope. Go back and listen to that. That was what I was talking about before.
Mark down the time code.
That was it. That was the one.
But I mean, he has an England kit and a Germany kit for the Euros, and he was very taken with the black Germany kit.
I bet he was very confused when England played Germany.
Again, it's not that deep. He wasn't really worried about the actual game of it, but he does like wearing his Germany.
That is a nice kit, that black kit, to be fair. The blackout one, that's a very, very nice shirt. Probably the best of the Euros, in my opinion.
Germany always smashes it with the kits. Their kits are very tidy. But so daughter was born. She's got a Villa kit. Alfie's got a Villa kit. So I think we're set for a while. I'm not a guy that buys them every year's kit. Is that bad? You do that, wouldn't you?
I mean, I'd buy myself every kit every year, so probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would. I'd probably do that. I'd probably stick to what I do for myself. I would think.
I think potentially next year, when Alfie's 4 next year, and he might be interested in watching football a bit more. He's just interested in playing at the moment. So.
Yeah, you can go to a game at 4, in my opinion. That's about the right age. Yeah.
When did you go to your first game?
I think it was 7, maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah. I was 10.
I had a season ticket since I was 8.
Do you know what? You'll never guess what my first Premier League game was.
Where were you living? Oxford. No, were you living in Oxford? Yeah.
Cambridge.
Same thing, isn't it? Cambridge and Oxford.
I'll never guess.
I'll never guess. Well, I'm not going to get the both teams. Am I? Is it a Premier League? You said Premier League.
It was a Premier League.
Right, so I might get one of the teams then. I'm going to go for. Can you give me a year, please?
2000, I think. No, it must have been 99, I think.
99. I will say Bradford.
I would say that's around the right kind of quality. Yeah, it was Derby County versus Tottenham. Why we travelled 6 or 7 hours on a bus to Derby to watch Les Ferdinand score a couple against Tottenham.
For Tottenham, Tom. Even I know it would have been for Tottenham.
No, he played for Les Ferdinand, played for Derby and Tottenham.
Yeah, but he wasn't playing for Derby in 2000.
He scored whenever it was. So it might be 98, 99.
I'm telling you, he played for Tottenham at that point.
He scored for Derby.
No, I'm not having this. I'm not having this. How do I know more about a game I wasn't at that was your first ever Premier League game? And I'm telling you, Les Ferdinand did not score for Derby that game. Unless it's past 2000. I'm sure Les Ferdinand played for Leicester towards the end of his career.
I might be wrong.
Oh God, you should know that.
It was Derby versus Spurs.
Yeah, that's fine. But Les Ferdinand didn't score for Derby.
Didn't play for Derby.
No.
So maybe it was 2-1 to Spurs.
Yeah, I'm sure Les Ferdinand might have scored for Spurs.
This kind of proves my point, though, a little bit, in that I wasn't ready for football.
Are you ready? Are you ready now? Are you working in football? And I'm still sitting here thinking, is he ready to work in football?
So he definitely played for Spurs at that time, but I was more interested in novelty gifts and food. That's what attracted me to going to football. I remember going on a school trip to watch Northampton Saints play rugby. I bought one of those giant Jester hats.
Oh yeah,
and it would cost like £15 or something like that. What a waste of money that was. That must have been all my spending money.
I bet your parents were fuming with that. I bet Brexit Kev was not happy with the Jester's hat when you're going back.
I mean, he just probably would have walked out, I imagine. Just not acknowledged it.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. I can't believe that you were trying. I've had to correct you on the first Premier League game you had that Les Ferdinand wasn't playing for Derby.
This is kind of the point, though. This is what I'm saying, that at 4, I'm not sure he's ready to go to a game. 4 seems young.
You might not remember it, but the Bundesliga is quite friendly and quite jovial as well. I feel like the Bundesliga you can go younger, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a problem. Every game I've been to has been class, but what's the point?
Steiner in his hand having a beer. Yeah,
Stein.
I was putting Steiner for some reason. We all get different things wrong, don't we?
1-1.
Yeah, I think you'll be sitting at 5-6-1 so far in this podcast, if we're being completely honest, and we went back through and added it all up, Tom. Should we go?
Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I don't think many questions have come up, to be honest. Is anyone even watching us? So far, this is basically, we could have done this on FaceTime. We didn't really need to come onto YouTube and subject other people. Oh yeah, good question, David Styles. Any players in Germany that Villa should look at?
Oh, see, because I think that every good player in Germany should stay in Germany for the good of my job in the league.
Must be some players. Frankfurt got anyone then? Kostic still playing for Frankfurt? Has he gone elsewhere?
Yeah,
is he still there?
Yeah. I mean, Kostic is lively and would look good, I think, on Villa's left wing. But Frankfurt, Kostic looked a lot more dangerous last season when Frankfurt were playing a nicer system and everything was gelling under Adi Hutter. This year they've struggled to get things going. They're doing really well in the Europa League, but like in the league, not so lively. You want to look at a centre back, Freiburg, who are having an incredible season. They're third at the moment. Have a guy called Nico Schlotterbeck. He's
good on Football Manager. I was looking at him the other day.
Yeah. There you go. But the real attraction, this isn't necessarily a target for Villa players, but the quality of young central midfielders in the Bundesliga is phenomenal. Like you look at Jamal Musiala at Bayern, he's incredible. Jude Bellingham, unbelievable talent.
Your friend, your mate Jude.
My mate Jude. Gio Reyna, who's been injured the last couple of months, but started off the season really, really well at Dortmund. Those are the kind of Florian Wirtz at Leverkusen. Like you have kind of 4 central midfielders there that I think the Bundesliga is really going to hang its hat on. As long as they stay, those guys will be stars for their respective countries for the next 10, 15 years.
So there's 4 players that Villa can't sign then, that he's just suggested.
Well, Wirtz, no. Musiala on loan would be lovely. But yeah, the rest of them aren't going to go for sure. Musiala hasn't played that much under Nagelsmann.
I don't see him rocking up at Villa Park anytime soon, unfortunately.
He only played the last couple of games because Kimmich obviously had COVID. And
2 interesting links down there from Kajana, Sejono. Tagliafico's been linked quite heavily in recent days, which, I mean, expecting to sign now, I'm saying this, but he just doesn't feel like a Villa signing. I think he's 29 from Ajax. Just doesn't.
He's the one that's also linked with Chelsea?
Yeah, they need a left back. So, I mean, I guess he's got a relationship with Martinez because he's the Argentina left back, but 29, that doesn't feel like the kind of signing Villa would make. It doesn't really fit in with what we tried to do previously. But then neither does Coutinho, and that's actually one that I sit here and think that would actually make a bit of sense for the rest of the season. Player that Gerrard does know that he did play with.
Philip Coutinho?
Yeah, he's not getting a game for Barca. He's available for loan. He'll go to the Premier. He might end up at Everton under Benitez, but that does feel like he feels like someone to be a good fit to the playing style Coutinho, as in one of the narrow 10s.
Do you think?
Yeah, still a good player. He's just had a bad time at Barca.
He's the kind of guy that I feel might be. How old is Philip Coutinho now?
Must be 30.
Yeah. So we talked about earlier about progress
on loan, just for half a season.
But then you're cutting out the players that you already have. What good are you doing? True. I feel like that's the position where we have players that could play that position.
Don't ruin it, Tom.
But we don't need him. Like, obviously Philip Coutinho a few years ago, yeah, fantastic. But if he's not getting his game for Barcelona,
it's probably to do with pay, I would suggest, in some ways for Barca, because they're rubbish at the moment. They could do.
I mean, financially they're an absolute disaster, but they wouldn't not play the players.
No, but they probably owe Liverpool another 10 million if he plays a certain amount of games or something stupid. This is me purely speculating.
I can imagine that they need to farm out players for sure. But if he's not playing already, you've got to question why. And are we better off plugging the players that we do have in that position?
I'm sure there was a Villa player once. I don't know if when we were doing podcasts, it was saying that if he plays a certain amount of more games, then Villa have to pay. It might be Darren Bent.
No, it was Micah Richards. Wasn't it?
No, because he was on a free. He was on a free, wasn't he, Richards?
Micah Richards, wasn't it that if we got promoted, his wages doubled back up from Championship?
I know Lansbury. I think Lansbury's wages went up when we got promoted as well. But there was a player, I'm sure it was under Lambert. If we played another 10 games or something, we had to pay. I'm sure it was Bent. We had to pay Sunderland a bit more money, so we just didn't want to do that. So we just didn't play him anymore.
Yeah, I've heard of that of a few clubs. I think that's. Yeah.
Any more questions for Tom to not answer? to come up?
I'm not giving the best Bundesliga player.
What's the jumper all about? By the way, I'm trying to look at PG is the whole.
Paul Gascoigne.
Oh my god, absolute basics. How did I not work that out?
Should have given you more time there.
No, yeah, I probably would have got. I think it was the 10 that was throwing me. Don't associate Gaz with number 10.
If you want to give a free bit of publicity out, this jumper's from the North Curve.
Fine.
Does lovely kind of football-related jumpers and tees, and it's a really nice website. The guy that runs it is big Italian football guy. I tried to get him to do some more Bundesliga stuff, but does a lot of Italian, a few Scottish. I think he's Scottish. So a few Scottish things there, but the North Curve, very, very nice gear.
Did you send that for free, or did you buy it?
No, I've got 3. I've got this one. I've got an old Ronaldo one, and I got it's like a French one. It's kind of a not non-club specific, but it's a French 1984.
Tom no longer shopping in thrift stores since he left the country.
They don't really do charity shops here, not in the same way. It's very hard to find charity shops in the same way that they're commonplace in London and the like. So I'm kind of disappointed in that. I am wearing jeans that I realized were from.
Oh, okay. I already know what jeans they are. You only showed me a brief knee of them, but I know exactly what jeans they are from the booth days.
I think they may be maybe 10 to 12 years old, these jeans.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I'm trying to think. Did you wear those jeans when we went to Sheffield United away?
I have no idea.
I think you probably did.
The North Curve, get some free advertising.
Look at this. Tom will be clipping this up and sending it to the North Curve saying, look at what I did for you. Look at what I did for you.
I would never.
I mean, I never get free stuff from anyone, so I can't be taking the mick.
I think that's a good place to call it a night.
Yeah, it's been good. You know what? I've enjoyed that more than doing a post-match point about the game. We basically just had a catch-up in public. And basically just doing that whole podcast in the booth, essentially, where it loosely based around what Villa were doing, but there was also a lot of other nonsense in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, never really got too far away from the nonsense, did we, in the booth
What was
days?
that tagline?
Always silly. Always no.
I can't
See,
remember it.
this is peak. This is peak Villa.
It wasn't a tagline that we made up. It was that someone else said, but we quite liked it and thought it was true of the podcast at the time.
It was basically sometimes that we talk some sense, but most of the times it's absolute nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to go back and find that and maybe tweet out this podcast using that tagline. Anything else you want to plug before we go? Any other clothing brands?
I don't know any other clothing brands.
No.
But what else do I want to plug?
Oh, okay, you are going to plug something.
I don't really have anything. I'm thinking about doing something charitable wise this season. I was speaking to you about it.
Yeah, you were.
Weeks ago.
Yeah.
So if you've ever liked anything that I've done on the Villa View, watch this space, because I think there will be something charitable to do this year.
Yeah.
Specifically around the NSPCC and protecting kids. There was a couple of stories last year, specifically Arthur Jones in the Birmingham area, but a few others where we can't let stuff like that happen, and that really hit me hard last year. Not to finish on a super sad note, but it was gross. It was despicable, kind of what happened, and there's not an awful lot that we can do, but we can help support important charities in protecting vulnerable children and stuff like that. So I think I haven't kind of pinned down exactly what I want to do, but I do want to do something to raise some money. So, bookmark this if you enjoyed this last hour, or you've ever enjoyed anything that the Villa View has done. I'll be calling on your door for some cash in the next months, because it's important.
Yeah, so we'll definitely help. We'll definitely help with that. Myself, Adam, and everyone at the Villa View and the Villa View will definitely help with that. And if you want to keep up with what Tom is doing as well, just check out the hashtag AFVC, because he's the only person that's ever done a Villa tweet under the hashtag. To catch up with what Tom's doing, make sure you check out that hashtag. I was talking about that earlier; it made me laugh.
Was that? I think that might have been our first ever podcast that I tried to promote.
AFVC. Yeah, no one's going to look at that. So no one's going to be looking for a podcast about AFVC, unfortunately. I think.
Good. It's always good to be back.
Yeah. I might plug some of my own stuff before we go. Actually, I might plug the Conor Harahan podcast on the Athletic, 1874. Gone down really well. Had lots of positive feedback around that podcast. Conor, unbelievable guy. Was an unbelievable player for Villa. I said he's going to come on and do a Villa View live actually as well on Zoom, so we'll get a chance to ask Conor some questions. Hopefully there's a few more than there were when we were asking Tom questions. So yeah, Conor's going to come on the Villa View soon, but if you do want to have the lowdown on his time in Claret and Blue, then go on the Athletic, 1874. It's free to listen to. Really, really good to catch up with Conor and speak to him and do a podcast. Tom, it's been brilliant to have you on and chat to you again. As I say, not really a post-match point, but great to talk to you nonetheless. Thanks to Villa for getting the year off to an absolute flyer. Thanks to Purity, as ever, for sponsoring us. And yeah, we'll be back before the Manchester United FA Cup game at some point, doing a preview for that. So stay tuned for that. We'll update you on our socials with when that's coming. Have a good rest of the evening, and up the Villa.
Up the Villa.